So there's all this talk about fasting. Is fasting good? Well, we've pretty much gotten to the point where it's being accepted. Years ago, it was unheard of for people to be talking about fasting as it relates to health. Now, we did that for health, for religious reasons. We did it for, social practices. But in terms of health, no. But in recent years, we have begun learning that fasting is an incredible tool to be used for improved metabolic health. And so fasting is now becoming one of the most talked about and most used tools that we have in the management of metabolic disease. The question, though, is which fasting method? Which one do I need to use? What do I do? How do I go about fasting? And that's what we're going to be talking about here tonight as we get into the show. The top fasting methods to use for optimal health. That's what we're working on. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to put their diabetes in remission, who want to get off of diabetes medications, who want to improve their metabolic health. In fact, those who want to reverse their diabetes. If you're new to me as well, go ahead and put new in the comments because we'd love to say hello, welcome you with a hand clap and some music. And let you know that we are happy that you are in this space. If you have questions, go ahead and put those questions in with a Q in front of them so that we can get to those as we move through the evening. And so, as you know how I do right here on the channel, I've got off to my side some monitors that we're going to take a look at here in just a minute. I've got my Keto Mojo meter. Hey, it's Dr. Wood, and it is right about 26 hours. There you go. So I've got my Keto Mojo that's sitting over here in the corner, and I've got my Dexcom that we're going to take a look at here in just a minute. Let's see if I can get, there you go. That's the one I wanted you to see. And then I also have my report that we're going to take a look at that's right down here below. We'll take a look at that here in just a little while. Just some shout outs to those of you who are here. Thank you for joining us tonight, whatever platform you might be joining us from. If you are on YouTube, obviously here on the channel right now, Facebook, and Facebook, for those of you who are out there, you may be seeing some new things on Facebook, so just pay attention to that. For those of you who are on LinkedIn, hey, welcome to you. Those are on Twitter. So Twitch, thank you for being here. As you know, Twitter has changed some of their policies, and so we're right now not streaming live to that platform. And then, of course, Instagram, not currently streaming live to them. We may try to do that as we get into the night. But thank you for joining us wherever you're finding yourself. If you know someone that needs to be here, go ahead and invite them. Right, let them know what we're doing. We're in the saddle. New year, new you. We're putting diabetes in remission. And right now, I am. Let's see, 48 hours. Yeah, 48 hours in. So yep, there it is. 48 hours and 7 minutes. I was going to say 9 minutes, but yeah, 48 hours and 7 minutes into my fast of 72 hours this week. So glad that you're here. If you are fasting right now, go ahead and put in, right, IN in the chat, right, if you're fasting right now. If you've just come out of a fast, put out, right? And if you're going into a fast, put going. So out if you're coming out, in if you're currently in a fast, and going if you're going into the fast. And right behind that word, I want you to put the number. For instance, if you've been fasting for 24, 38, 42 hours, go ahead and put in 42. And I'm going to put in, and I'm 48 hours, so I'll just put 48. So in 48. Okay, so just drop that in the comments for us so that we know where you are. Awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at my monitors. So there is my Dexcom, and right now Dexcom says my blood sugar is 94, and this is at 48 hours. And you see the graph down at the bottom has been kind of dropping throughout the day. If I change that to a 24-hour period, you see kind of a fluctuation there right around 8 o'clock. and then continue to drop. And then we'll take a look at my monitor or my report here in just a little while, so we get a little bit broader picture over the last several days. And then, of course, here is my Libre, and this says my blood sugar is 83, and you'll see, just like the Dexcom down there at the bottom, you'll see that throughout the day blood sugars have been going down, 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 down. Now this one starts right about 100, and we'll get a good idea of where we are here in just a minute. Okay, and before I hop over to my my monitors, I just want to say hello to Terry. Terry Simance. She said, hi everyone, Dr. Woode is the best. Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming through, Terry. Glad that you are here in this space with us. So let's go ahead and take a look at, so we've seen what my meters are showing, or my CGMs are showing. Let's go ahead and take a look at what my monitors are doing. As you know, the finger stick sometimes can be different, so let's go ahead and do that. And so I have my Keto Mojo, which gives me both blood sugar and ketones, and then my Contour, which gives me blood sugar. So let's go ahead and let's get a strip out and drop that into the Contour here. And then we'll start with the blood sugar strip for the Keto Mojo, and then we'll come back and look at the ketones in just a minute. So let's go ahead and get that in. And then I'm going to get out of my little container here a handy dandy. Actually, I'm going to get two, because last night I ended up having to use three. And this is once again a spring-loaded lancet. And you basically take the top part off, and when you press the spring or press the lever, the spring pushes the lancet out, and then you get a finger stick. Okay, I'm going to use a different finger because I keep using the same one, and I think that one's gotten a little calloused. So let's pick a different finger and see if we can get a better drop tonight. Okay, and then I'm going to pop this up so you guys can see. Right. All right, hopefully you heard that, and let's see if we got a good poke. Okay, there we are. There we go. There we go. So that's the Keto Mojo that's getting started, and then of course this one is the Contour. All right, Keto Mojo. So Keto Mojo says 80, and then the Contour says 80. So wow, look at that. So 80 for the Contour, 80 for the Keto Mojo, and then on the screen also you see the Libre, which is 81. And then if I pop over to look at the Dexcom, you see 94. So the Libre, the Keto Mojo, and the Contour right now are pretty close to each other. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to open up the strip for the ketones. All right, get this one out. Get this in, and then let's get a drop of blood on that. Okay, so get that going. And of course, as I always do, I'm going to tease you guys because I'm not going to show you what it is. Boom, until we get to it. All right, so if you think you know what my ketones are at 48 hours, by the way, 48 hours, a little over 48 hours now, what do you think it's going to be? Go ahead and drop that in the chat. Drop that in the comments. Go ahead and take a guess on what you think it is. All right. So while that's doing, let's go ahead, and I want to hop over and let's go ahead and talk a little bit about, well, not a little bit, let's talk about our subject. We're talking about fasting methods and the top methods for health, for optimal health. Okay. Now, I'm going to be talking about a variety of fasting methods. Okay, so let me start there. So we're talking about a variety of fasting methods, and fasting methods come in lots of different flavors. And we've talked here on the show about those. We've talked about what they look like, and we've done, if you have not seen our last week's episodes, go ahead and make sure that you take a look at that. We went through starting, fasting in general, and then we went through and we talked about different fasting methods, and we did those methods basically talking about what those methods were, right? How do you do it? This week, what I want to do is I want to go through in this check-in, and I want to talk about the science or the studies that led to some of the fasting methods being used and what particular disease processes these fasting methods are good for, okay? I want you to understand. So we've already talked about the fasting methods. We've talked about the benefit of them. If you've not seen one of our reviews where we do that on Fridays, by the way, so tomorrow we'll be doing that again. We'll review fasting and how to get into it, how to prepare for it, how to go through the fasting, how to end the fast. That we'll do tomorrow. We've also talked about the different methods, several methods that not all of them, but tonight we want to share what some of those methods are good for, and kind of review briefly some of the studies that came that produced that information. Okay, and the reason for that is as you are evaluating different parts of the tool, because remember, fasting is a tool that we're using, just like several of the other tools that we've used in the past that we've learned. Right, so fasting is one of those, and the several tools that we've learned about the 5 whys, so why we're doing what we're doing. We've learned about fasting, which we're talking about here, the heat model, emotional intelligence, how to manage your medications. So all of those are things that we've done, tools that we're learning. So now let's dive deeper into fasting and say, hey, as we're looking at fasting, which ones should we be using? Which ones are good for what? Okay? And so the methods that we're going to be talking about, right, list of fasting methods, we're going to be talking about intermittent fasting. We're going to be talking about alternate day fasting, 1 meal a day, water fasting, and then dry fasting. Now, as a backdrop, all of the fasting methods are beneficial, and they all help with blood sugar control, insulin resistance, obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. All of them have a component of those things in them, right? But there are some specific things that we do have studies for that I can share with you tonight, and we'll kind of go through that as we walk through the evening. And the studies, just one point about studies. So a scientific study can come in lots of different flavors, okay? We can take a group of people and we've decided, hey, we want to find out how, pick your fasting method, right? Intermittent fasting. We want to find out how intermittent fasting will affect blood pressure or blood sugar or whatever it is. And so we've designed the study to be able to tell whether this particular intervention, right, the fasting, will give us this result. Okay, so that's how the study is typically designed. And so what we do is we recruit people, we have criteria for them to come into the study, and lots of different things. We won't go through all the criteria. We'll go through the description of how the study was done. And we'll take those people, right, we screen them, make sure they fit the parameters. We get them into the study. We randomize them into either control or non-control. So the control people are the ones who get to use the method or the intervention. Not the control, but the experimental ones. The study subjects are the ones that get to use the intervention, and the controls, we just have them do what would be considered normal. And then at the end of the study, we check to see if there's a difference between the two. And what we're looking for is a significant difference, because there can be small differences between the groups, right? So there could be a one person over here had it and 2 people over there had it, right? So there can be differences, but is the difference significant? And that's what we're looking for. Is it a significant difference? And that's a typical scientific study that you do. And you can do that for anything. I mean, if you want to find out, what kind of bricks are best for houses in Alabama, right? That's a study. That's something you can test. So you go out and you get a bunch of bricks, and you come to Alabama and you find some houses, and the houses have to be similar weather, similar size, and you come up with the criteria that you want, and then you put the bricks on the houses, different houses. And then at the end of whatever period, you decide, hey, looks like that brick over there starts to fall apart after a year, and that brick over there starts to, it lets water in, and that one is not very secure, and this one chips, right? And you come up with that. So you can do a study for anything that you want to look at. In this case, we're looking at fasting methods, right? Fasting methods. So that's one type of study. Another type of study is what's called a review. And a review goes and it finds all the studies, right, just like the one I just described, that have done interventions or have any data on the particular fasting method you are looking for. So for example, I can go to the literature and I could do a search and I could find all the studies that were ever done for anybody who ever did 1 meal a day fasting. Okay, so I go to the literature, I do my search, and I find that there are 10, well, let's make it a little bigger. Say there are 100 studies that worked and tried to figure out 1 meal a day fasting. Okay, so that was their intervention. And so then I go through and I weed, or I have criteria for the studies I'm going to look at. So I got 100, I searched all of them, and they gave me 100 studies around the world for everybody that has ever used 1 meal a day fasting. And so now I have criteria. I said, well, if I have a study that only had one person in it, I'm not going to use that study. Okay? So I weed out all the studies with one person. If I have a study that was too short, right? They only did it for 2 days, then I'm going to weed out that study. And so I have all these criteria for what the rigor is that I'm going to use for the study. And I would have come up with those prior to doing my search, right? Because if you don't do that, then you're basing your search on, or you're basing your criteria on the search, and it gets into some complication. So in other words, I come up with my criteria, I go do the search, I find 100, I weed them out, make sure that all the studies are good, they're proper, they were done at, at good locations, prestigious, they have enough people, they weren't too small, they weren't too short, and whatever the criteria are, now I take those studies and then I go in and I see what the results are based on those studies that I now have, and then I begin ranking those, okay? So that's called a review. Another type of study is a study where we do a retrospective look. So we look back, right? So we come to the end and we say, hey, look at this. Let's look back and see what are the things that happened to these people. So we don't have we may have had a preconceived idea of what we want, but we could take a group of people, say we got 1,000 people, and we just go in and we categorize the things that happened to the people. Now, we don't have a predetermined idea of what we want to look for, but hey, look at this. Of the 1,000 people, 100 people who live in Alabama had a particular thing, right? Compared to 2 people in all the other states. So what's going on in Alabama? So notice that becomes an interesting point, okay? And then look over here in Denver, look over here in Mexico, look over here in Australia, look over here in China, right? Look at these clusters of things. And then we begin looking to see, okay, what was it about those people in that particular area that caused them to have that particular thing, right? It's called a retrospective study. And a prospective study is a study where we're looking forward. So we got a group of people and we're going to, prospective longitudinal is another one where we're looking at those people and we're going to see what happens to them in the future. Okay, so I just want to review with you the study types and so forth. Okay, so as we go through, you'll see some that says the participants were, and that's something where they actually took people and they put them in the study and they follow them. You'll see some where they say review. Okay, and those are ones where they went and they looked at all the studies that dealt with a particular fasting method, and now they look to see what those methods were doing. Okay. All right, so let's hop through and we're going to start. So intermittent fasting, and as you know, intermittent fasting, we've talked about that before. It is a cycle of fasting followed by eating, fasting followed by eating, fasting followed by eating. And there are several types of intermittent fasting studies or intermittent fasting types. And the things that intermittent fasting is good for, right? So remember, they all help with all of these things, but intermittent fasting, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity, and neurodegenerative diseases. So neurodegenerative diseases are those diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, ALS, right? So neurodegenerative diseases. So let's hop to it. Let's take a look at a couple of the studies. So here's a study, and I did not, and for those of you who are out there, for all the study writers, the authors, I apologize. I don't have your name on it. But these are not studies that I've done. These are studies that I've pulled, that I've reviewed. So I apologize for that when I was creating the slides. That slipped my mind. Okay, but there's the title: Alternate Day Fasting and Chronic Disease Prevention, a review of human and animal trials. So this is one where they went in and they reviewed, they found all the studies that had been done on alternate day fasting, and they reviewed them, right? So the review of multiple human and animal studies using alternate day fasting protocols, right? So normal eating days, right? Alternating with days of 25% calories or less. Okay, so remember, alternate day is every other day you're going back and forth. So one day you eat normally, and the next day you cut the calories. And the next day you eat normally, and the next day you cut the calories. And so when they did this, when they looked at all the studies that had done alternate day fasting, they found that it significantly improves insulin sensitivity and reduces fasting blood glucose levels. Actually, I think yes, alternate day fasting, right? Sensitivity and reduces blood glucose levels by lowering insulin resistance and promoting efficient glucose metabolism. Okay, so and that's just a alternate day fasting. That's the benefit. So it was shown to lower blood sugars, fasting blood sugar. It improves insulin sensitivity, and it promotes efficient glucose metabolism. All right. So if you're looking for something for diabetes, and let's pop back over. All right, we're looking for something for diabetes. That is something you want to do. Okay. Awesome. All right. So let's keep going. Right. So, and we're talking about intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting. So here's another one: effects of intermittent fasting on body composition. Right. Body composition, the fat cells, what you look like, the central obesity, all of that, and clinical health markers in humans. This is in humans. So they did a review also. They went out, they found all the studies that had humans that had been using intermittent fasting and looking at clinical markers. So review of clinical trials and observational studies with different intermittent fasting protocols. So remember, intermittent fasting can be broken up into several different types of protocols, because the intermittent fasting simply means alternating fasting with eating, fasting with eating, fasting with eating. So even if you're doing an extended fast, and you do a 72-hour extended fast every week or however often, followed by, so that's 3 days, followed by 4 days of eating, then 3 days of fasting, 4 days of eating, that is an intermittent fasting. It's a longer one, but you get the idea. So they looked at these patients, and what they did, they started measuring different parameters. So blood pressure and lipid profiles, that's your LDL, your HDL, your triglycerides, and other cardiovascular markers. Right, so they're looking, remember that, so that criteria, or that group of things that you just see there, blood pressure, lipid profiles, triglycerides, those are really some of the components of metabolic syndrome, metabolic disease. So we see that the same as we do in the other spaces, okay? And so what they found was intermittent fasting reduces blood pressure, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides. And this improved the cardiovascular health, because remember, some of the risk factors for cardiovascular disease, diabetes is a huge one. It's a big one. It's the major one, but also blood pressure is a risk factor. Cholesterol is a risk factor. So if we can decrease those, then we have better cardiovascular health. Okay, so cardiovascular health. And then another study The effect of intermittent and continuous energy restriction, right, on weight loss and metabolic disease and the risk markers, a randomized trial in young overweight women. So this is a randomized study. This is one where they actually took women and put them in the study, right? This is one that wasn't a review, and then they looked at certain parameters. So in this case, the participant was assigned either to a 5-2 diet, right? So they fasted for 2 days, and then they ate regularly for 5 days. They put them in that group, or what they did was they restricted the amount of food that they ate. So which is a typical diet that a lot of people will go through, right? So let me pause there and say that. So one of the most common diets that people will go on is the diet where they just simply cut back on their calories, right? And so they follow this this rule that we've talked about, and it is what we've said, it's what we've done, is what we've taught, is what we've promoted, but we know it doesn't work long term. And the whole idea is if you cut your calories by 500 calories per day, you will lose weight. Yep, and it does happen. The issue with it, though, is when you cut the calories, your body decreases its metabolism. Because the body's smart. It says, look, I'm not going to keep burning the same amount of energy if you're giving me less. Right? And a lot of times we use the analogy of the person who has a job and their pay gets cut. Right? Now, theoretically, when your pay gets cut, what do? You cut back as well. Now, a lot of us will keep keep spending the same amount. But the idea is that if you're getting less in, then you put less out. And that's what the body does. If you cut back the calories, then the body will cut down on the metabolism as well. So anyway, so they took these people and they did either 5-2 fasting, or they started restricting their energy. And they started measuring body weight, fat mass, and metabolic disease markers, right? So those are some of the things that we just talked about. And the conclusion was that intermittent fasting leads to significant weight loss and fat reduction, making it an efficient strategy for managing obesity. So remember what we're talking about. So diabetes, right? Metabolic disease, obesity, right? So this is what intermittent fasting, these are the studies that they've done. And then neurodegenerative diseases. So here's the title: Impact of Intermittent Fasting on Health and Disease Processes. And what they did was they took human trials, they did animal trials, and animal studies as well, and they measured cognitive function. How were they able to do things? Cognitive function. Neuroplasticity, that is the connection. So did they remember this? Were they able to associate these two things, right? This neuroplasticity. Oxidative stress and risk of neurodegenerative disease. That's what they looked at. That's how they studied it. And what they found was intermittent fasting enhances brain function, improves neuroplasticity. So that's one of the things that's being lost in patients with neurodegenerative diseases. That's why they can't remember something from today, right? They can remember stuff from way before because those neurons are connected. But to make new connections, they have trouble, right? That's that neuroplasticity it's not there. And it reduces oxidative stress. And oxidative stress, we know, if you've been reading, if you've been paying attention, it is a huge issue with the brain in people who have neurodegenerative diseases, right? And this has the potential for lowering the risk of diseases like Alzheimer's disease. Look at that, y'all. Look at that. Okay? So there's the study that we're able to affect Alzheimer's disease. Huge, right? Because we're seeing more and more people as we are moving through our history that are developing some of these neurodegenerative diseases, and it's a huge issue, right? All right, so alternate day fasting. Alternate day fasting is you eat and then fast Eat one day, fast the next day. Eat one day, fast the next day. Now, you can do this in several ways. You can restrict calories, right, by a certain amount, or you can just do no calories. And in our space, we've been doing no calories. Okay, so alternate day fasting is good for metabolic syndrome, inflammation, and obesity. So if you have one of these things, then alternate day fasting is likely the thing that you want to do. And the whole idea here is that all of the fasting methods do something, right? They all have the benefit of improving metabolism, improving insulin resistance, helping you to lose weight, get better blood sugar, right? So all of those, but some have a better track record, or some have better studies that show that those things are specific to that fasting method. So it's not that you can't use others, right? That's not what we're trying to say, but we're trying to give you a list of the ones and what they do. Okay? So metabolic syndrome, inflammation, and obesity. So here's one: alternate day fasting for weight, right? So they took participants or were assigned to alternate fasting group 25% less, or control group, and then they looked at blood pressure, cholesterol levels, triglycerides, and this was measured for 12 weeks. 12 weeks. Now, 12 weeks is important, right? Because a lot of the programs that you see that are reversing diabetes, the programs that are talking about metabolic health, the programs that are doing coaching, they're 12-week programs. Okay? 12-week programs. Right. So the conclusion was, remember, so what they did, they took these people and they assigned them either to an alternate day fasting group or to a control group. So the control group did what they normally would do. And then the alternate day fasting alternated days of eating where they dropped their calories down to 25%, not by 25%. So not down to 75%, but down to 25. They got rid of 75%. And then they started measuring these markers. Okay? And what they found was alternate day fasting significantly improves markers of metabolic syndrome, including reductions in blood pressure, cholesterol, and triglycerides. Remember, those are the same ones that we saw in a previous study, right? So these are components of metabolic syndrome. So when you're talking to your doctor, and when you read anything, when anybody's talking to you, these are the things that they're looking at, right? So what makes up metabolic syndrome? Okay, so alternate day fasting. So here's another one: a randomized pilot study comparing 0-calorie alternate day fasting, just like we've been talking about, to daily caloric restrictions in adults with obesity. Right? So once again, either they did alternate day fasting where they didn't take anything in on the days they were fasting, or they simply went to the normal, restricting the total calories by a certain amount. Okay? So participants were randomized, right, like we talked about, and so either a 0-calorie day group or a daily calorie restriction group. And then inflammatory markers were looked at. So CRP, or C-reactive protein, the interleukins, right? So these are inflammatory markers in the body. These were measured at baseline and after 8 weeks of intervention. So they looked at them over time. And the conclusion was that alternate day fasting significantly improves markers of metabolic syndrome, including reductions in blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides. Look at that, y'all. Metabolic syndrome, right? So when we talk about that, those are some of the things we're looking at. And so alternate day fasting was significant in doing that. Here's another one: intermittent fasting versus daily calorie restriction. Which diet regimen is more effective for weight loss? Right? So we're still talking about all of them having the benefit, but specifically some of the ones that show benefit in particular areas. Okay? All right. So the method. So analysis. So this was a study where they looked at multiple studies, like we talked about at the beginning, including multiple studies with varying durations and participant demographics. So they look at different different studies that had different groups of people, different categories of people, the participants have different demographics. Maybe one study was all women, another study was all men, one was mixed. Maybe they did some with people in the South, some with people in the North, right? And the studies were of various durations. Okay, maybe one went for 12 weeks, one went for 8 weeks, one went for a year, right? So they put all those together, and then they started measuring different things. So outcomes such as body weight, fat mass, lean body mass were captured between different dietary regimens. So they started looking at the different ones that they were doing and say, okay, what are we doing? What do we see happening? And what they found was alternate day fasting is highly effective for promoting significant weight loss and reducing body fat in obese individuals. So when they look across the studies, across the different demographics, they saw that alternate day fasting was good for reducing significantly the weight compared to usual practice, and for reducing body fat. So reducing weight in general, and then particularly body fat. Because one of the concerns sometimes for people who are fasting is that I'm going to lose protein. Okay? So that was there. And then 1 meal a day. 1 meal a day. Now, 1 meal a day is a type of fast, and sometimes people confuse this with a 24-hour fast. It's not a 24-hour fast. It's 1 meal a day. Okay? The 24-hour fast says that you can actually fast for 23 hours, fast for 24 hours and then eat. The 1 meal, sorry, I said 24 hours. It's confused with the 23-1, the 23 hours, 1 hour. So in the 23-1, you can actually eat throughout that hour when you're eating. In this case, you're eating 1 meal a day, just one, right? It's not like eating at the beginning of the hour and then a snack between and then just 1 meal a day. All right, so let's look at this. So 1 meal a day, this is good for type 2 diabetes, weight loss, and digestive health. Okay, so here's the study. Impact of reducing meal frequency, 1 meal a day, without caloric restrictions on glucose regulation in healthy, non-weight, middle-aged men and women. Normal weight, sorry, I said non-weight, but normal weight. So these are people who are normal weight, and what they did was they did the reducing frequency. Instead of doing their normal eating, they just went to 1 meal a day. Right? They wanted to see, and they didn't restrict the calories. Right? So 1 meal a day, and you're eating the same calories that you would normally eat. And so participants were allowed to consume either 1 meal per day or 3 meals per day without caloric restrictions. Right? Just their normal eating. The intervention lasted for 8 weeks, with fasting glucose levels, insulin sensitivity measured before and after the studies were done. And so 1 meal a day improves insulin sensitivity, reduces fasting glucose levels, suggesting benefits for managing type 2 diabetes. So that's what's going on. So 1 meal a day. So once again, all of the fasting studies are showing benefits. Some are better than some others. Okay. All right. Time-restricted eating. And so I'm going to do something here. So time-restricted eating is another method that that we will sometimes talk about. And what I want to do is hop over and grab any comments that we may have for folks that are coming in. And so I see Pamela. Hey, Pamela, how are you? Let's pop this one over. Pamela says hello. Glad that you're here. Thanks for coming through. And then I see Candy. Candy Rose says that she is in a fast right now for 30 hours. Yes, Candy. There you go. You get a hand clap for that one. And just Candy, one question for you. Is this your first fast? Do you normally fast? Is this the longest you've had? Of course, now I ask you 3 different questions. Okay, first of all, is this your first fast? Yes or no? And how long have you fasted before? Just those 2. So yeah, either yes or no, and then a number. Okay? And then we see Jeremy Griggs. What's up, Jeremy? Hey, man, thanks for coming through. Glad that you are here. And so for those of you out there, if you've not already done so, there is on the YouTube channel there are several playlists, but one that that I always want to give is the one that says how to fast successfully. All right, so I'm just popping that into the into the chat right now. So how to fast successfully. If you've not done that, it's a great one, and it has all of the fasting check-ins that we've done. All right, all the fasting check-ins that we've done over the course of the year so far. Well, almost all of them. I think there are a couple that are not in that list. Okay, but you can get over there and you can take a look at those. All right, so let's talk a little bit about time-restricted eating. So time-restricted eating means that you are eating during a particular window. Remember, alternate day fasting is 1 day of eating, another day of eating of fasting. Eating, fasting, eating, fasting, eating, fasting. That's alternate day fasting. Intermittent fasting simply is a fasting period followed by an eating period. So alternate day fasting could be considered intermittent fasting. Okay, 72-hour per week fast can be considered to be intermittent fasting. And so time-restricted eating is different in that it regulates the time that you eat to a particular time, and usually we're trying to save that, we're trying to do that during the time when our body is resting, and that's the circadian rhythm. Okay, circadian rhythm. So that's time-restricted eating. I wanted to, let's see, where was I? Let's get back to, there we are. So I was skipping over that one because I wanted to go to, let's see, where are we? I wanted to get to one of the others that I think is very important. Time-restricted eating. Okay, here it is. Yeah, and this because I want to get to some of the ones that people will have lots of questions about. And so this is water fasting. Right? So water fasting. And water fasting is where you are not taking any that's what we do, right? That's what I have taught. That's what I continue to do. And I'm doing water fasting. Right now, I am actually drinking what is this? Zero sugar, one of the zero sugar things. I think this is Dr. Pepper. Zero sugar Dr. Pepper, okay? But a water fast, you're not taking any calories in. And so water fasts are good for hypertension, detoxification, and cancer. Yeah, hypertension, detoxification, and cancer. So here's one. Medically supervised water-only fasting in the treatment for hypertension. So that's what this study was titled. And the method, so hypertensive patients, so they actually took patients and they underwent only water-only fasting at a health facility for periods ranging from 10 to 14 days. Right? So they took these people and they fasted them, no calories except for water, for 10 to 14 days. And then they measured blood pressure before, during, and after the fasting period. Okay, so remember we're talking about blood pressure. So water fasting significantly reduces both systolic and the top and the bottom diastolic pressure, demonstrating its efficacy in managing hypertension. So during that time, those patients were found to significantly have decreases in their systolic and in their diastolic blood pressures. Okay, so water fasting, very good. So and you saw the things that it did there. So fasting, molecular mechanisms and clinical application, right? Molecular mechanisms and clinical application. So methods. So they reviewed, right? So review included preclinical and clinical studies that investigated the impact of fasting on tumor growth, how big they got, on chemotherapy efficacy, how well the chemotherapy worked, and mechanisms like autophagy and apoptosis in cancer cells. So let me pop over and let's talk a little bit about that. So autophagy is the process of cellular cleanup, cellular recycling. And we've talked about it. If you've not seen our show, go back and look at that. It's in the list. So the body goes out and it breaks up, it collects, it scavenges for broken, unused, damaged, irregular cells, and it basically recycles them. It's kind of like, you put the recycling out and that recycling shows up somewhere else because they've created something new and fresh from it. That's what the body does during autophagy. Apoptosis, on the other hand, is what's called cellular death. So there are cells in the body, and if you turn on a particular switch, they basically commit cellular suicide. And so the question for cancer cells is, how can we make them do that? Right? So our body has the autophagy process, so it's going out and it's collecting cells and it's grabbing damaged cells. But how can we make the cells themselves just commit cellular suicide? And so that's what apoptosis is the cell committing suicide, basically dying. And so what they found, water fasting increases autophagy, which helps eliminate damaged cells and may reduce cancer risk. So notice that. So autophagy, and we've talked about autophagy starting right at around 18 to 24 hours, getting ramped up at the 36 to 48 hours, and really taking off during that 48 to 72 hour period. Okay? And what they're saying, and fasting is a huge way of promoting, of jump-starting, of enhancing, of supercharging autophagy. And what they're saying is doing water fast has a huge impact on the ability of the body to stimulate autophagy, and in this case, to help with cancer cell reduction and cancer cell risk. So I love that. Okay. And then dry fast. So we talked about water fasting, which is not taking anything, and dry fast now is a fasting where you don't drink anything, you don't eat anything, right? Everything is gone. And this is good for inflammation and for immune health. Inflammation and immune health. And so here's a study: ketone body elevation in dry fasting, implications for physiologic and therapeutic effects. Physiologic and therapeutic effects. So they took participants, once again, they took real people. They underwent dry fast for periods of 24 to 72 hours. 24 to 72 hours. So, as you know, we've been doing 72 hours. We've not done dry fasts. And they measured inflammatory markers, ketone levels, and metabolic parameters before and after the fasting period. Remember those metabolic parameters. Those are things like blood pressure, cholesterol, the LDL, and triglycerides, right, and other things. And what they found was dry fasting reduces inflammatory markers and promotes ketosis, aiding in inflammation reduction. So remember, all the fasting shows benefit in lots of different areas, but these ones that we're going through are ones that show particular benefit in certain areas. So not that intermittent fasting can't help with obesity, or can't help with blood sugar, or can't help with insulin resistance. But I've given you a list of the ones that are specifically shown based on the studies to have particular benefit in certain areas. Okay? So dry fasting reduces inflammatory markers and promotes ketosis, aiding in inflammation reduction. So I love that. So if you're looking for if you have a particular disease process that you're interested in working through, right, there's the list. All right, we make them. So one of the things that is not on the list right there is extended fasting, what we've been doing, right? So that's a whole conversation, right? I didn't put it in here deliberately because it's a big topic, because it actually covers a lot of the different ones that we've done today. I was talking to some folks today, and I do consults for people who are interested in getting help with their metabolism, their diabetes, and so forth. And so I was talking to a couple today, and we were talking about fasting. All right, 24-hour fasting, longer fast. And what I was pointing out was that fasting, all fasting works. All fasting helps. But the question usually is, how significant is your metabolic disease? Now, can you get benefit from a 12 and 12 or a 16-8? Yes, you can. But the benefit you get there, right, compared to the benefit you get from a 48-hour fast or a 72-hour fast or even an alternate day fasting is not as big, but it does work. So if you have significant metabolic processes that you need to be working on, then you may need to do an extended fast. Maybe not a 72 hours, maybe not even a 48 hours, but maybe do an alternate every other day. Okay, or 5-2, any of those. But now you have a framework to be able to look at that, look at those fasts. And like I said, we'll come back and we'll do a detailed discussion on extended fasting and the benefit that you get from those. Awesome. All right, so let's see. Let's get over and let's take a look to see who's come in. I see Candy says, let's see. So Jeremy said we said hello. So Candy says, I just referred or fasted for 4 days before my cycle. Cycle just started, so I'm back on my third hour. Okay, wow, 72 hours. Good for you, Candy. Yeah, I love that. And then Jackie Davis says, first time here, informative video on the... Thank you. JC, thank you for stopping through. And then Jennifer says, howdy y'all. Hey Jennifer, how you doing? Glad that you are here tonight and hanging out with us. So fasting, amazing tool. And remember, we have looked at several tools. Right? So fasting is a tool, and I want you to remember that. And just like any tool that you use, you can put it down and you can pick it up when you need it. The issue that we sometimes will run into where people will have problems is they become very restrictive and say, oh, I can only do a 16-8. I can only do an alternate day fasting. I'd only do a 48-hour fasting. Now, you remember last week, and actually I did it again this week. So last week, and I think the week before, I started my fast early, right? So I normally fast on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so 72 hours. But over the last several weeks, I have been doing, at least probably about 3-4 weeks ago, I did a 96-hour fast. And then I did a 102-hour fast. And the reason I was doing that was I needed to jumpstart my metabolism to get some other things going, right? So I had plateaued. And then I came back to my 72-hour fast. And then last week and the week before, we had that dinner that I went to on Tuesday. So I was starting my fast on Sunday, right? And the plan was to do a 96-hour fast that week, but the dinner was on Tuesday, so I started on Sunday, so Monday, Tuesday, so I ended up doing a 45-hour fast. Right? So you can adjust that, and we've got a community member out there. I don't see him tonight, but he does every day. He does about a 24-hour fast. So he does one meal, a 23-1, I think is what it turns out to be. And he's doing a keto. And he's pairing that fast with a ketogenic diet, right? So the things that we do, the tools that we learn and are learning are flexible. One of the keys, right, for success is to be flexible. Because if you're too rigid, it becomes a chore, it becomes a burden, and your brain doesn't like that. The brain doesn't want to have to make a decision, and so it will pigeonhole you and say, well, yeah, that doesn't work, so we can't do it. And so we end up backing off. So I don't want that for you. So remember, you can use the fasting as a tool to be able to get to where you need to be. All right, so let's hop over and let's look at a couple of things really quickly, because I do want to see, what do you think my ketones are, y'all? So 48 hours is almost 49 hours now. Let's go ahead and I've got my Keto Mojo on the screen, and let me go ahead and pull up my Keto Mojo app. So I got to pull that out and turn it on, and then get it synced. I was going to say sunk. get it synced. Let's pull that over. So 48 hours, 48 hours. What do you think it's going to be? 48 hours. Somebody guess real quick. Well, actually it won't come over there. So Candy says 3.2, 3.2. I like that. Anybody else? Anybody else? Quickly, because I wanted to show this. 3.2. What do you think? What do you think? Jennifer's usually a pretty decent guesser. So what do you think, Jennifer? Or who else is out there? Okay, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. All right. All right, so there he is. 0.9. Look at that. So fasting for 49 hours, ketones of 0.9. And so remember, ketones less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 are considered nutritional ketosis. And above 1.5 are considered therapeutic ketosis. Okay, so we want people generally to be 0.5 or higher in their ketones. For people who are type 1 diabetics, we don't want you heading over into the 1.5. In fact, for type 1 diabetics, if you're fasting, if you're working with me, I usually say 0.5 to about 0.8. Okay, 0.5 to about 0.8, 0.9. And above that, we're kind of getting close to some other things, right? So we want to make sure that we're keeping you safe. And once again, this is a good place to say I am talking to adults with type 2 diabetes, but that doesn't mean that if you have type 1 diabetes, you can't fast. You've got to do it under supervision with your physician. And then a question that I had earlier today, as I told you, I was consulting with a couple, and the question that they had was, sometimes blood sugars, when they're fasting, it goes up. Or they've heard that blood sugar goes up when you fast. And you guys have seen that happen here, right, with me, that my blood sugars rise when I fast, and that happens because the body has switched over into ketosis. But remember, it can still generate sugar from the glycerol component of the triglycerides. Remember, the triglycerides has 3 fatty acid chains, free fatty acids, that are attached to a glycerol backbone. The free fatty acids turn into ketones, but the glycerol turns into sugar, and so you'll see that spike. Okay. All right, so let's do this. I want to hop over quickly and look at my report. If you've not done so, go back. This past Monday, we did our show on the second pillar of reversing diabetes. Remember, the pillars are: number 1, reduce your insulin; number 2, suppress your appetite; and number 3, decrease your sugar. So decrease insulin, suppress appetite, reduce sugar. Those are the 3 pillars. We did the second one this past week. And we're going to be doing a follow-up to that coming up in the coming weeks, okay? All right, so now let's take a look at, let's see, which view do we want to look at? Let's see, how about this one? We haven't used this one in a while. Yeah, there we go. So you guys get to see my behind the scenes over there. All right, so average blood sugar 138 over the last 14 days, all right? And you guys know why that is, right? So we've been eating a little bit more things. My average, my glucose management indicator is a 6.6. So that says that if I were to get an A1C right now, then it would be a 6.6, and that's what you're seeing on the screen. I'm in range 91% of the time, and the target range right now is between 70 to 180. If I look at my daily graph, and I'm going to scroll back, and we're going to look over the last 2-ish days, because we've been fasting now for 48 hours. Okay, so it expired. So let me go ahead and log back in. Give me just a second. So while I do that, I see Jennifer saying, hello, JC, welcome to the community. Yes, yes, yes. Jennifer says, my guesses are terrible. Jennifer, actually, I would have missed that one as well, because I was expecting that my ketones would be higher. Actually, I was thinking, so JC, I think you said 3 point, or Candy said 3.2. So I was expecting it to be at least a 2. But hey. All right, so let's get over here and let's go ahead and log back in. It times out while I'm talking. And of course, I logged in while we were getting started. All right, there we go. Let's get back over here. And we are looking at, I think this is the one. Okay, so 138 was our average. And now we're looking at the daily graphs. And we want to look over the last couple of days. So let's go back and so we started Tuesday evening, right? So Tuesday evening right around 9 o'clock. And I actually had fasted. Well, let's go back. So I had fasted for, at the time, I think I was at 38 hours maybe. So I started fasting the night before and came all Monday, nothing. And then Tuesday morning, I think I broke that fast. Yeah, Tuesday morning I broke the fast because we were going to go out that night. So I was like, okay, we have a team member that's that has moved on to another position, actually doing some good things. And so we were celebrating with her. Okay, so that's what you see there. And then we restarted the fast after that dinner, right at 9 o'clock. And so at 24 hours, right, I was 201. Sorry, at day 0, time 0. And then 9 o'clock the next day, that's 24 hours at 102. And then tonight at 9 o'clock, 93, right? And so we're going to see what that is tomorrow. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how tomorrow goes in terms of ketones. But I'm expecting that they should be higher. And we'll go from there. All right. So, y'all, I'm always excited when I'm here. I'm always excited when I see new members to the community. So thank you all for coming through and hanging out with us. Remember, I want you to know that you have unlimited potential. Your potential for being successful is unlimited. It's at your fingertips. And with education, empowerment, and encouragement, that's what I do here on the channel. That's what the community does. We educate with the shows that we do. We educate with the podcast and the blogs. And we encourage, or we empower with the tools that we're learning, right? Emotional intelligence, the why. Why are you doing what you're doing? And then we encourage with the community, just like you see right now. Because if you want to go somewhere, go by yourself. But if you want to go far and go long and go for a long time, go and take somebody with you. So we educate, we empower, and we encourage. And remember the things that will push you off of your eating plan. Those are the things that are given by the HEAT model. Our habits, those routines that we get into, the social cues, the things that we do just because we do them, not because we're hungry. But we eat when we go to watch the movies because we eat popcorn. We eat when we sit with our friends because that's just what we do, right? So watch for those. We eat because of emotions. We are angry, we're tired, we're bored, we're frustrated. Remember, if those emotions, just like the roller coaster, get to the top of the roller coaster, it's coming down. Regardless of what you can kick and scream and yell, but that car is coming down, just like our emotions. If they become too high, we don't manage them, they will push through, break through the decisions we've made about our eating. And then we eat because of access. Things just happen to be around. They are in our space. We did a show about how to create and clean up your home, your community, and your workplace in terms of food. So we eat because things are around. I can't bring cashews. I can't bring almonds here. We're getting ready to go on a trip. I bought some. I'm going to eat them on the trip, but that's it. And then we eat because of taste. The perfect combination of fat, sugar, and salt. The bliss point. When you eat it, you can't just eat one. But remember, we're never chasing the food. We're always chasing what it does. We're chasing the emotion, the memory, the time when we went to that place and we ate that thing and we felt that way. That's what we're chasing. So habits, emotions, access, and taste. And then our call to action to you is 1, join the challenges. Come by. Don't let the challenges be something that you sit on the shelf, you hear the show, and then you don't do anything else. Every month we have a challenge, okay? Every month we have a challenge. We'll be doing our challenge. We'll tell you about that on our show on Monday. Make sure that you are here, okay? So join the challenges. Number 2, share your story. Just like you've seen in the chat, people are saying they're fasting, they're having successes, we're having struggles. Let us know when you're having struggles so we can rally around you and we can know that we're not alone. We let you know that you're not alone because we're working together. And then share this with somebody else. Let them know that they can improve their health. The unlimited potential is there. let them know it does not have to be like it's been in the past. They've had some struggles. They've had some complications. They may have made terrible decisions in the past, but they can have a better time now moving into the future because the ability, the potential is at their fingertips if they will just grasp it. Right? So share it with somebody, send the link, send the link to the playlist and let them know what they can do. You can be a voice for change, right? In your community, in your home, in your family, at your doctor's office, wherever you are. There are over 1 billion people on the planet with diabetes or pre-diabetes. You can be a voice for change. And I want you to get in there and begin doing that. And then our pillars for reversing diabetes: decrease insulin, suppress appetite, and reduce sugar. Remember, join us on Sundays for our This Week in Review, which is where we do a recap with some commentary on the things that we do during the week. Starts at 6 o'clock on Sunday morning. And as you guys know, if you were here, we are getting ready to do some camping with some kids. We've got about 75 people that we're taking on our camping trip, and we're getting ready to meet up with a group from around the world. Listen to this number, y'all. They're estimating that they're going to be between 60 and 75,000 people. That's right. That's huge. It's an event that occurs every 5 years, and so we're going to be hanging out with them. So we got some special things that we're going to be doing for you over the course of the week. You may see something from me in a camp, in a tent somewhere. You know, we'll see. We'll see what we do. But on the 16th of this month is our 4-year anniversary. 4-year anniversary of Dwain Woode MD. Dwain Woode MD and the show and the channel. We're going to be doing a 24-hour stream. Make sure you come by and join us. Let people know what's going on, and we would love to see you in that space. Candy, thank you. Let's put that up. Let's see which one of these. Yeah, let's lose this one. So Candy says, both 72s. I tried my checked my glucose, ketones. They were 70 and 3.0 plus and after 48-hour mark. 72-hour mark, I was around 60 and 47 and 4.7. Blood pressure has normalized and I'm healing. New here. Thank you. Candy, thank you for sharing that with us. I love that. You get hand clap, you get all kinds of stuff. I gotta put some new sounds on there. But yes. And Jennifer saying, welcome to the community, Candy. Sounds like you have a good run on fasting. At Jennifer, Nebraska, she said thanks. And that's a big tent. Have fun camping. I'll be home with air conditioning and hey, they tell me that it gets down to about 50 at nighttime. So we'll see what it does. Okay. We'll be out in Wyoming, actually. All right. So as always, y'all, thank you for coming by. Thank you for stopping here. As always, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. We'll see you at our check-in, and then on Sunday morning, 6 o'clock for This Week in Review. Good night, everybody.